Okay.
Very good.
I am delighted, so delighted to introduce Sherri Oster, who is to give her presentation on color for her master presentation as the final step. Well, except for having to put in 15 images this year, but that's pretty good. I am so excited to hear this presentation because I'm so sure there are things that I, I don't even know about. And I've been looking forward to this. So Sherri, thank you for pre preparing this presentation on such a delightful.
Thank you so much. I'm just so delighted to be here and to be doing this. I really want to open with gratitude to the club and everyone in it who works so hard to make membership such an enjoyable and rewarding experience. I have learned so much from you all. And in particular, I want to give a shout out to Nancy, who has been so supportive. She introduced me to syrups, told me about syrups while at a beer garden somewhere. And I was intrigued and joined. I've learned so much from you, Nancy. You are so generous with your time and your expertise, and I have called you mentor, and it's a privilege to call you my friend. So thank you. I was initially thought I would do my presentation on portraiture, which I really love, and I had done kind of a mini presentation and a workshop for the Tuesday afternoon group.
Which was
Uh,
wonderful.
oh, heck, a little while ago. And I thought, well, I'll just brush that off. But on thinking it through, I realized I wouldn't learn anything, right? Wouldn't learn anything new. And so I was kind of casting about what might I do. And I was inspired by a conversation. My presentation is on color and the tools that we have in Lightroom and Photoshop, Lightroom Classic and Photoshop that we can use to manipulate and impact color. I was inspired by a conversation I had with Bill Stacy last summer. We had both photographed the same car show, and I saw his images afterwards, and he had these just brilliant reds and dazzling oranges. And I asked him, how did you accomplish this? And he said, Photoshop selective color. I was like, oh, I've taken a tutorial on that. I learned it at one point, but it's not something that I use. So I went back to it, and it really inspired me to look at all the different ways we can impact color. Um, I know that there's a great depth and breadth of experience in this club, so I don't think I may be teaching a lot of you something new, but I know that not everyone remembers everything they know. So hopefully you'll be like me and inspired to go back and try something that maybe is not in your current toolbox. Um, I Let's see, even though this covers Lightroom, Classic, and Photoshop, and maybe you're not an Adobe user, your software will have similar tools that will function in similar ways. I've tried out a number of them. And as Liz said in the email about this presentation, there's no need to take any notes. I've got a really exhaustive handout that I'll be emailing to you at the end. You might want to jot down something like selective color if you want to remember to try it. But I've got 20 tools to show you. What I'm going to do is go through Lightroom Classic first. We'll take a brief break while I set up Photoshop, and then we'll come and hit that. All right. So color is a key element in photography and even in black and white
What's going
photography.
on?
What do we do? I'm sorry. Okay. Even in black and white imagery, how you process those underlying colors can have a dramatic impact on your image. Now, some of the tools, the software decides what the color is, like what is red, right? Lightroom may decide what
That's
is
not
red
what I
for you.
want.
It's Liz.
Okay, there's a problem, I guess.
Oh,
Other tools let you define the color and the range of colors. And yet there's another tool that says, are you adjusting just the colors you see as red, or are you adjusting the red in every pixel? Because, blues can have some reds, green can have some reds, etc. So we're going to cover all of that. And first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move you guys over to my other screen. I'm going to share my screen and say screen number 2. All right, can you see my peace sign?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
All right, fabulous. Now, before I get started on the demonstration, I just want to show you three different examples of now, yeah, I can see you, but you guys are off to the side, so if you need to speak up if you need to draw my attention to anything, okay? Because I'm looking at the same screen that you are at this point, but I don't see your faces. Um, I'm going to show you a couple before and afters. This Tony and I affectionately dubbed Linda's tree. We were in the Eastern Sierra, and this is our cottonwood. Um, this is not how I saw it. But this is what my camera saw. You know, when you shoot in RAW, it captures all the data, but your images can be rather flat and somewhat muddy. This is what I saw
Mhm.
when I took the picture. So this is manipulating color, cropping, and some cleanup. The same with this one. You've probably seen behind me in Zoom. It was early morning and I exposed for the highlights. I didn't want to lose any detail in the clouds. And this is what happened after I finished editing it. This one I'm going to show you, it's got a single color that's kind of a pumpkin color that I blended in Photoshop so that everything has that little, pumpkin spice hue. And then this one we saw earlier in competition, really, really foggy day. I wasn't sure if I was going to pull any color out of this image, but with a lot of manipulation, that's what I ended up with.
Mhm. Beautiful.
Yeah, gorgeous.
So
Mhm.
right back to our peace sign. I like this image because it's got light and shadow and it's got a lot of different colors. The first thing we're going to talk about in the develop module side is something that a lot of us might skip over. If you can see my cursor, I'm over the profile. So a profile determines how data in a raw file is shown on the screen and gives you a starting point for editing your images. A creative profile is a quick way to add a stylistic effect to any photo. So it's basically Adobe interpreting your raw file and presenting to you what Adobe Color looks like. There's Adobe Standard, Vivid, Portrait. Portrait's a little duller. Vivid's a little brighter, etc. There's also this browse button you can see more, or click these four rectangles in the corner, and you can see a bunch of different profiles that you can use to start off your editing. It's how Adobe is interpreting your image. In addition, starting, I think last year, 2025, in the update, there's an AI tool called Adaptive Color, and that's where Adobe Lightroom is looking at your images and it's deciding what your starting point should be. So it's assessing or analyzing your individual images. Now, one thing with the profile browser and the adaptive color, you can decide how much you want to apply. You can double it or you can reduce it um, by using that slider there. So I wanted you to introduce you to adaptive color and the profiles. The next thing I want to show you is the preset. So we're moving from this develop side all the way over to the left side, and we're clicking down on the presets. I can close history. Your Lightroom will come with a lot of different presets that you can select from. Once you click a down arrow, like in the spring or in the summer colors, once you click a down arrow and you hover over the different choices, you can see what it's going to look like. Now, one thing I want to point out, when we were playing with Adobe Color or Landscape or Portrait over here, none of our edits or none of our sliders moved or changed in any way, okay? It's different when we're over on Profile. Say we like this really bright one, Summer 2. If we click that, look what's happened. Our
Mhm.
sliders have moved. It's made adjustments. We can fine tune them here. It's also impacted the tone curve was impacted, the color mixer was impacted, and the color grading tool was impacted. So you can go and see what each of these adjustments are if that's something you want to replicate in your work. All right, I'm going to reset this guy. I'm going to open up a different image. The next thing I want to cover is white balance. Um, this unfortunately is a JPEG. It was quite discouraging to discover I was shooting in JPEG when I was storm chasing. But
Uh,
I'm showing you JPEG and then I'll show you a raw color. But if you want to adjust the white balance, you can click this as shot, but you see because it's a JPEG, you really don't have any choices. What you can always do, irrespective of the type of file you have, is use this eyedropper. It's a white balance selector. By clicking on it and then coming over to a neutral gray area and clicking on that, and it can brighten your image. And then you have, of course, I'll put that back, the temp and the tint sliders. Maybe I want it a little bit brighter or a little more warm, and maybe I'm going to add a little magenta to it. So those are the tools that you have up here for white balance. Now, if you have a raw file and you want to adjust your white balance, when you click this as shot, you see you have a lot of different choices here. The first time we didn't have that because we had a JPEG, but in the raw file, the white balance isn't baked in, and then we can change it to be different white balances. And again, you can also use this tool. Woohoo! All right, so that's white balance and temp and tint. I'm going to stay on this image and we're going to go down to the present sliders down in this section. Clarity adds depth to an image by increasing the local contrast. When you use this setting, you got to zoom in and make sure you're not ghosting, that sort of thing. You don't want any halos or anything like that. But if we move, I'm just going to crank it up so you can really see it. If we move the clarity slider over, we're actually getting different yellows here than when we started. So it is impacting the color. We also have that option with dehaze. We can use the dehaze slider. And I used a lot of both of those on those pelicans, the dehaze, so you can see the before and after. Next is vibrance and saturation. Vibrance adjusts let me get this back again. Vibrance adjusts the saturation so that clipping is minimalized as colors approach full saturation. So it changes the saturation of the lower saturated colors with less effect on the higher saturated colors. And because of this, it really protects skin tones if you're using this vibrance slider with portraits. But if I push it all the way up, you can see it didn't really change the foliage too much because the yellow was already pretty saturated, but it surely impacted the blues a lot because they were not. Saturation, on the other hand, I'm cranking it all the way, it saturates everything evenly, even if it may blow out colors. In this case, it's made your leaves from yellow to orange, which may be a look that you really, really like. Just understand the difference between the vibrance and saturation. Okay, back to my piece. I gotta take a quick sip. Okay, next we're going to look at the tone curve. And you're probably really familiar with the tone curve um, for adjusting your image's contrast by adjusting the tonal ranges. There's some defaults here, or you can make your own S curves um, on the image. But you also have the ability to adjust the red channel, the green channel, or the blue channel. So we'll take a look at these. We see that we have the shadows, the midtones, and the highlights, just like we normally would. If we want to increase the reds and the shadows, we would push up button. If we want to increase the cyans and the shadows, which are the opposite of reds, we would pull down. So just know that these tools are here. Now, one thing, just like in masks and other things in Lightroom, when you see the little dot here, you can know that you've made some adjustment there. So if I go and I'm working on the blues and I decide I want yellows in my highlights and I want some more blues in my shadows, I know that I've also impacted the reds. So we'll just look at before and after. That's a lot of change with just a few little dots here on the tone curve. All right, I'm resetting that. Next thing I will go to is the color mixer. All right, so this is the default for the color mixer. It opens up and you see your HSL. Now you can adjust the hue of the various colors. Then you can adjust the saturation of the various colors. You can adjust the luminance of the various colors. So say we want our reds to be deeper and we want them to be more saturated and we want them to be darker, right? But we're actually doing a lot of clicks here to get that done, which is a little awkward. You can press the all button and then you have access to all the hue, the saturation, the luminance, but you're still scrolling, right? The way that I like to work this is by using the color option as opposed to the HSL option. Because HSL, you're only working on hue, then you're working saturation or luminance. Color gives you the option to work on a single color at a time. I have both the H, S, and L sliders with the colors here. And my dog's now barking. And this is this red dot shows me that I've already done some edits there. And this is the global dot. It shows me that there's edits here. Okay, let me reset this because I want to also show you here point color. Um, Point color lets you select the color that you want to work on. You can use this eyedropper here and say, you know what, I want to work on these blues. This color bar here, as I shift the hue, you can see that the left side shows the original color that I clicked on, that I selected, and the right side shows the color that I've changed it to by using this hue slider. I can impact saturation, luminosity, um, that sort of thing. I want to show you, I got a little ahead of myself. I'm going to reset this guy because I want to show you how to pick a single color on here. So I set this up and say that, okay, we're picking this color in the middle, and as I showed you, you can change it, but I really didn't intend to change these, and I didn't want to impact these. I only want to change the one in the middle. I can play with the ranges, which says what are the ranges of colors that I'm impacting, and that brings a little bit of it back, but not a lot. I can click down here and I can see what I'm actually doing. This is where I started and this is where I moved it to. But these are the blues. These are the colors that I have access to with blue. And over here is luminosity. You can see the slider move as I do this. Okay. Um, I'm going to click here and visualize range because what that's going to do is going to gray out any area that's not impacted by my color choices.
Mm.
So I've eliminated some of these, but I still haven't eliminated this one. I can fine tune it further by coming down here, and this is showing me the range for the hue and the range for the saturation and the range for the luminance. So I can make the color smaller. And you can see above how it's shrinking the number of color or the amount of color I'm picking up in my changes. Let's see, I'm going to make that really small. This is still changing, but it's getting better, right? Still not, I'm just changing this one. But yeah, it's still changing this fourth one over here. So let's see, I'm gonna change my saturation. Oh, now look, they're all grayed out except for the middle one. So I can change this color here. I'm gonna turn off visualize range, and it's changing only that middle blue. It's awfully quiet, you guys.
You're
Okay,
muted.
okay. Okay, let me see. From color mixer, I'm going through my notes. I don't want to miss anything. All right, next we're going to color grading, and I've heard from some of you there's great interest in that. I'm going to actually work on a black and white image to demonstrate color because I want you to see what exactly what color grading is doing to your images. I really like working with these tools. I call them the beach balls. So if I call them beach balls, that's because they're round and colorful. This is the default setting where you see all three in the panel. You can look at them one at a time just by clicking the shadows and then the midtones and then the highlights. This is global, and any adjustment that you make with color will affect the entire image the same. So, and you may have reasons to do that. So say I have an image in front of me and I'd like the shadows to be blue. I can just click on the blue and now I have blue shadows. As you're moving your colors around, if you know that you want this color, but you're not sure what level of saturation you want, if you hold the shift key down, it keeps it in line so you don't like swerve all over the place. But so in this instance, I want my shadows blue. I like my highlights, the white one here, the highlights to be yellow, to be nice and warm. And just for drama, I think I'm going to make my midtones this kind of pink magenta color. Okay. Now, one tool or two sliders that you have in color grading that you don't have in other places that invite you to do color grading in Photoshop is the blending and the balance modes. So blending, I don't see a huge difference when I work with blending, but blending slider dictates how rapidly or gradual the transition is between the tints that you've assigned to shadows, midtones, and highlights. It makes a little change. It's kind of interesting, especially towards the shadows. I see it in this example. Balance, on the other hand, biases the tints towards either the shadow or towards the highlights. So you can decide I really want a sunny image with just minimal shadows and blues, or I want a darker image with just a little bit of highlights. So I think that's a really useful slider for this tool. And I'll reset this. And as I mentioned, global really makes the entire image one color. Okay, I'm going to pull up a new one here. Now, earlier I mentioned, well, at the very beginning, I mentioned, are you adjusting the colors that appear to be red in your image? Or are you adjusting all the red pixels in your image, irrespective of whether the color is red that shows for you? And I wanted to give you an idea of what that looks like. This is the Kelvin scale. And we don't see any green here. This is the Kelvin scale that tells you what the temperature of light is. It goes from 1,000 to 10,000 in this example. And we don't really see any green here, but many of these pixels have green in them. So if I'm changing my green hue here, you can see how it changes the colors because I'm impacting the green that exists in every single pixel. Then does that make sense? As opposed to when you're working on a green in an image and it's only pulling the things that you see as green.
Hmm.
Okay, now before we leave Lightroom Classic, I've got 2 points. Most of the color tools I talked about, you can use with a mask. So if you pull up a mask here, say I'm going to use a radial gradient for this, you'll see what I have available is I've got the temperature available, the tint available. I can work on changing the hue. I can do fine tune. I can work on the saturation, not vibrance, which is interesting. But I also have the clarity and dehaze slider that's available
Hmm.
by using a mask. All right, do you guys have any questions about Lightroom before I move on to?
Sherri, I just wondered, so your work, thinking of this, what you would do to a black and white image with these colors? No? still.
Oh, this one here, you mean? No,
Oh, yeah,
this
I
is
thought that you were using,
because I used this. No,
sorry.
this was just demonstrating what the color grading will do to any image that you have.
I'd like to make a comment on that, that would be, I think, helpful for those people who want to do a monochrome that is non-grayscale. You
Hmm.
can change your image to grayscale, so it's like this. And Sherry, you had the other one that showed all the tints.
Hmm.
This one, any of these, if you do it in the global one, the one on the far right, like
Hmm.
Sherry's, and you apply this to your grayscale, you will have a true monochrome.
Monochrome. Hmm.
And so
Oh,
this is a great way. This is how I do it. This is a fabulous way to color your grayscale, keeping it purely monochrome. This is the tool to use, and you can
Hmm.
just try different things. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
good.
I'm sorry if it was confusing. My purpose for showing you this black and white is so that you can easily see where the shadows are, where the midtones are, and where the highlights
oh, okay.
are, and where you can see how Lightroom is adding those colors over the top of your shadows and over the top of your highlights and over the top of your midtones. Is that better?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. At this point, I mentioned that using masks, you can use most of these tools. I also want to point out that all of these color options that I showed you in Lightroom are also available in Adobe Camera Raw. If you're working in Photoshop and not Lightroom, you just select Filter and Camera Raw, and I'll show that to you when I get over there, and you can access these adjustments. And if you're in Photoshop and you decide to go to Camera Raw, if you change your image file to a smart object first, you save all of the history in Camera Raw when you come back.
Hmm.
I'll show that to you as well. And the same is true if you've made a lot of edits here and you decide I'm now going to take this photo into Photoshop, pardon me. A lot of times we say, okay, edit in Photoshop. I'm just going to go right over to Photoshop. But if you say edit in, open as a smart object in Photoshop, all of your Lightroom edits will come with you. And if you want to adjust them further in Adobe Camera Raw, you will be able to.
Hmm.
Okay. This one should be at the top with the other one.
Thank you.
All
Yeah.
right. So at this point, I'm going to stop sharing and I wanted to invite you all to take a 5-minute break, talk amongst yourselves, and I'm going to set up my Photoshop.
All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Wow.
Thank you.
Wow, that's really
Lots
I
good.
to
use
learn.
Lightroom all the time and I don't know
Like,
any of this. I
what?
mean,
I
I've
don't
played with
know.
a
Yeah,
couple of
Yeah.
those
Oh,
areas,
yeah.
but
One comment I might make is I saw a video and they're introducing range when you talk about color, the range like that.
Yeah.
That sometimes you use these colors on a blue sky. You'll find that it affects one part of the sky and not the other.
Hmm.
And so, especially, I've noticed that in my in the Sierras, I did images, but now with the range, it balances that out so it looks natural. So it doesn't have, all the color in one section of the sky. And I thought that was really something that helps me a lot, especially mountain photography.
hmm.
Sherri, you also will, if you're using a polarizer at altitude, you'll get splotching also.
Oh, mhm. Yeah, I like what Sherry's doing there because some of the tools I've seen forever and just never bothered to use them.
Yeah.
I've
Same
got my
here.
favorite tools that I use when I go through it, but some of the other ones that uh,
Yeah,
I
there's so
just
much more
haven't
to
used.
use.
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like I've gotten into kind of a continued style, the same thing every time.
Hmm.
It's
Same
good.
here. Uh,
Let's
Yeah.
see.
Of course, a lot of times that's what identifies us as an individual in photography is your style.
Uh-huh.
We don't talk much about style, but a lot of times, especially with the masters, the people who've been around for a while, you can almost tell it's one of their images. It's like a lot of times
Definitely.
Nancy's stuff will come up and I can think that looks like something
Yep.
Nancy would do. I can't put my finger on it, but she's got a
Yeah,
definite
yeah.
style there that just kind of puts a label on it, you know. Yeah, so that's really cool.
I think that was 5 minutes. I'm not sure. Thanks, you guys. So in Photoshop also has many tools that impact color. Some of them are actually pretty much the same as we saw in Lightroom, so I'll just touch on those and tell you why I prefer one versus the other. I do want to share a couple of things just general about Photoshop in case you're not a frequent user. One of the first things I always do is hit Control J. Whoops, why aren't you doing that? Control J and make a copy. You'll see that my original image is got this padlock, which means I can't edit it and muck it up in any way. And I'm going to be working on my layer copy so that if I do something really horrendous and I decide I need to start over, I haven't destroyed my original image. And then I do try to work non-destructively. So, you know, you can make adjustments by going to image and adjustments up here and say hue saturation. And I'm going to take this image and desaturate it for purposes of our demonstration. And you'll see saturation, right, is all the way at the left. It's -100. But say I'm doing some more work on this and I've decided, you know, I want to add some of that tint back. I missed that color. If I come up here and I go to image and adjustment again and go back to hue saturation, my slider is not over here where I left it. It's back in the middle. And if I push it all the way up, I still don't have any color, right? So this is working destructively. I can't go back and redo something that I've done. I can't undo something that I've done. I've actually gotten rid of the color. I'm going to get rid of this. On the other hand, if I work in adjustment layers, which is this black and white cookie here on the bottom, a little yin and yang, and go to whoops, wrong one, hue saturation, and say I do the same thing. I desaturate, I made it -100, and I pulled the slider all the way to the left. And then I'm doing some other things and I decide, you know what? I really want to add some color back. And I click here again. My slider's where I left it. It's all the way to the left and it's -100. And then maybe I want to add a little bit of color. So I wanted to point that out to you as just some Photoshop basics. At Control J, always make a copy so you're preserving your original image, and then use adjustment layers as opposed to image adjustments. It sounds like the same thing, but it's not. And then just while we're here and talking about color, one of the favorite things I like to do, if I've got an image that I love it, but it's just a little bland, and I've tried maybe some saturation sliders or vibrance, and I'm just not, I want it to have more pop. I will make a black and white layer and then blend the two, like with something like a soft light. And let me show you
That's cool.
the before and the after,
Oh,
right?
wow.
It doesn't just have more punch, it's like more jewel tones before and
Yeah.
after.
More interesting.
And because it's got a mask, if you decide I really don't like those dark corners, you can paint on black and make my brush a little bit bigger. You can take it out where you don't want it, where you don't want the effect. See, I've kind of blackened that corner there. Yeah. So that's just a little overview of Photoshop
Cool.
basics before we continue. Okay, which image? Okay. Let me get rid of this one. All right, so hue saturation, let me see. Is this the image I'm sorry, I'm looking at my notes. Close this guy up. We're going to come down here to our black and white cookie. We're going to pull up the hue saturation layer, and you've got your presets that come with Photoshop. So if you want to work in blues, that's cyanotype. There's 3 different types of saturation. It's like strong saturation, increased saturation, and saturate more. It's really blowing out my colors though. Old style, which is kind of muted. Red boost, yellow boost, sepia, which I don't think this is the best sepia out there, but those are available as presets, if you will. Frankly, I've never used them. Um, I want you to watch these 2 bottom bars because like we saw in Lightroom Classic, the top bar is the colors as they appear now, and the bottom bar is as we're changing the colors. As we're changing the colors, you can see the bottom bar move.
Oh,
Oh, cool.
Okay, so that tells you where it was and where it's from. Sometimes, okay, getting ahead of myself. You can work on all the colors, or you can isolate and say, I want to work on the blues or the yellows or the greens. So say I want to work on the greens and I want to desaturate them. But I'm really surprised because to my mind, this looks green and it's not desaturated. It grayed out these, and that's pretty cool, but this is just a tip for you when you're working on your colors and you're not getting the response that you think. If you take this little hand, I don't know why the icon is not an eyedropper, but and you click on this color here, it says this is a yellow, it's not a green. So if I work on my yellows, I'm going to change that. But this eyedropper not only gives you this yellow, but like in the point color we worked on in Lightroom Classic, it's showing you I'm picking this color, and these are kind of like the fall off ranges. So if you make changes now, you're going to change all these kind of adjacent colors. So you have the option to move these sliders in and say, I really didn't want to affect those colors. Or you can make this even narrower, right? You also can use the eyedropper to say, I want this color, but I don't want that color, right? This color, but not that color, but include this color, because I don't know why that's there. So in the hue saturation, you can change the color of things, you can change the saturation of things, and you can change the luminosity or lightness of things. But the one thing with hue saturation that you can do that you can't really do in selective colors, you can really crush your colors. You can oversaturate them. Okay, I'm going to go to this one here. Oh, where this property stays up. Make this a little smaller so you can see it. Get rid of my brush. Okay, so I'm going to show you the zone system at Control J first with color balance. Okay, so your color balance is kind of like those beach balls in that you can select to impact your shadows, your midtones, and your highlights. But instead of the entire beach ball of colors, what you can impact is these sliders. So you can add cyan to your shadows by pulling it towards the cyan, or add red, the opposite to your shadows. I'm going to try to replicate what we did with the beach balls in Lightroom Classic. I'm going to add blue to the shadows. I'm going to add yellow to the highlights. And I'm going to add, say, that magenta to the midtones. Now, what's missing here are those 2 sliders that we had on color grading in Lightroom, where we have the blend and the balance sliders. We just don't have that opportunity here. We can kind of change this a little bit, maybe. I just don't think this gives you as much control. I mean, you can play with it. I'm partial to the other. But that looks more like what we were getting with the beach balls, I think. Now, remember, if you want, you're like, I'm playing with this this color balance, it's not really giving me what I want. I really want that beach ball thing. You can get rid of the color balance, turn this into a smart object. Sorry, thought I got rid of my color balance. Okay, we'll just hit delete. Yes. If you right click on your layer where it's blank here and say convert to smart object, you're going to get this little icon. It's like this little square is cut out of this piece of paper. And then you go to filter, camera raw filter, and you get all the tools just like in Lightroom. And you have your color grading here, and you
Wow.
can say shadows and highlights and midtones. But now you have your blending and balance slider, so you just have a little bit more control.
Mm.
And then when you take it back into Photoshop, you can see that it's got this smart filter and it says camera raw filter. And what I mean by being non-destructive is that because you made it a smart object, you decide, you know what, I really don't like that mid-tone being pink. I kind of want it to be green. You can go back to your camera raw filter and you could change your midtones to green. Okay, so that really gives you the ultimate flexibility. The hardest thing I have is just remembering to convert it to a smart filter. I'm like, darn, okay. It just gives you that it just gives you that flexibility. All right, I'm gonna open, is this it? Yeah, I'm gonna open this one, Control J, always. I'm going to show you solid color next, and that's when you want to apply a certain tint or tone to an entire image. Back to that black and white cookie, solid colors on the top. This is a fall scene, so I want a kind of a pumpkin color. That's kind of nice.
Mm.
Okay. And you're like, wait a minute, I can't see my mountain scene. What's happening to my mountains? Well, blend modes are really your friend. And for having colors and things show through, the overlay is helpful. Soft light is helpful. More dramatic would be hard light. That's pretty icky. But soft light is pretty cool. And you can also change the opacity. You're like, that looks too crispy. It looks kind of burnt. I don't like it. I'm going to tone down the opacity. So this is our before and after, and it really warmed it. And because every adjustment layer comes with adjustment mask, if you don't want it on your sky, again, you can paint it out. You can select sky and mask it out, that sort of thing. But I use solid color more than you might think.
Oh,
I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to just turn this off. The next one I'm going to show you is curves. So just like in Lightroom Classic, you can adjust the contrast in your image by making your S curve. Get rid of that, Control J. But you can also pull this drop down here and say, I only want to work on the red channels, right? Or I only want to work on the blue channels. So blue, let's see, what Lightroom Classic does is show you if you push up, you get blue. If you push down, you get blue's opposite, yellow. This Photoshop is not showing you that. It's assuming that you're going to know. But so I want a little blue in the shadows, so I might push up on the blue, but I want a little yellow in the highlights, so I pull down, get a little yellow in the highlights. I even want some yellow in the midtones. That's actually looking really ghastly, isn't it? I want you to be able to see it. I don't want it to be pretty. Same with greens. We're going to go up to add green. We go down to add magenta, which is the opposite. It just doesn't show you that. And then reds and cyans. We're going to add reds, or we can add cyans. So that's curves. like curves in Lightroom Classic better, but it exists in both places and it does virtually the same thing. It's just an easier tool to use when you can see what color you're doing. Also, turn that off. Also in Photoshop, you have, it says vibrance, but it's vibrance and saturation sliders, just like in the present section of Lightroom Classic. And just like in Lightroom Classic, saturation slider boosts the intensity of all colors equally, which can make vibrant colors look really garish,
Mm-hmm.
like that. While vibrance is going to saturate the least saturated or the most muted colors first. But playing with this, you can bump your total saturation, but then decrease it. I mean, you can play with both of them in tandem with each other and see what effect you like the best. But again, the vibrant slider, it is a smarter tool and it does help protect skin tones in your images. Okay. Do, do, do. Now I actually have an issue because this thing is here and I cannot see. Oh, there it is. All right, don't know what I did. All right, this one I grabbed off the internet. And in the handout, I on a couple like the color grading on selective color and a few that have a lot of moving parts. I included a link to a YouTube tutorial. I watched a lot of bad YouTube tutorials, so you don't have to. And the best ones that I found, I've put links in there for you. I mean, some of them
Okay.
like vibrance and saturation are kind of no-brainers, but some of them are a little more complex. And so I'm going to show you. So anyway, I grabbed this from one of the YouTubes, so you might recognize it if you do one of the. I'm saying it up front. I stole it. Okay, so we want to do a selective color. Um, And the thing about selective color is that you have a lot of options. You can work on the reds, you can work on the yellows, the greens, the cyans, the blues, the magentas. You can work on the whites if you have them. If you work on neutrals, it's going to impact all the colors on your image. And black is really more like a luminosity. If you're changing your colors a lot and they're starting to look dull or pale, you can bump the blacks a little bit and it will bring back vibrancy, I think, in your image. The sliders, Photoshop is just not as helpful. It's not telling you the opposite. The sliders are going to be cyan by pulling it back, or the opposite, red, pushing it forward. Sorry, red pulling it back and cyan pushing it forward. So I think it's confusing because it says cyan over here, but by pushing it forward, you see the percent, you're adding cyans to your reds. Okay. And by pushing it back, pulling it back, you're removing cyan from your reds. So you can see how the reds are getting much more vibrant.
Mhm.
Turn off and on and off and on. Um, with yellows, same thing. We're reducing the cyan on our yellows, or sorry, yeah. And then but the cool thing, like see yellow, we want to add yellow to our yellow. The cool thing about um, selective color is it really doesn't crush your colors. It's actually like if you have red, I'm sorry, yellow and blue, and you want more yellow, it's actually removing the blue pixels from your yellow of your image. It's not adding more yellow. So it reduces the amount that you're going to oversaturate or crush your colors. And then again, if your colors start losing depth because you have made a lot of changes, these are pretty deep, you can desaturate or saturate. So it says it's black, but I think of it more like a luminance slider.
Mhm.
Okay. Did I open my drawbridge? Yeah, okay. Um, I've got this drawbridge image. It's not that exciting an image, but I think it demonstrates really well the things I'm going to show you next. The first one is called photo filter. So the photo filter adjustment layer mimics the technique of putting a colored glass filter in front of your lens or colored gels in front of your light source. So for our old time photographers who are used to using those tools, the photo filter actually replicates that. So let me find photo filter right here. I mean, it's very similar to using the solid color, but when the solid color demo that I gave you, we had to play with opacity over here in order to increase or decrease it, whereas the filters have their own density slider. So when you pull look at the drop down, it's giving you 3 warming filters, 3 cooling filters, different colored filters. There's sepia, which doesn't exactly take all the colors out, and then there's some deeper colors. I personally, I prefer some of the warming colors. You can change the density from 0 to really pumping it up. Preserved luminosity is helpful because as you add more layers of color, you actually can really darken your image. So preserve luminosity button, if you keep that checked, keep your image as bright as when you started. I'm going to take a quick sip here because I'm not used to talking so much. Um, yeah, the cooling filters, they're not really my thing, but they might be yours. So it's something to play with, especially if you're doing some creative things where you want it to look like an underwater scene. In fact, I think one of them does say, yeah, underwater.
Ah,
Yeah. But from here, you can also, if you do color, you can really pick any color you want to start playing with. So it is the same, right, as the solid color. You're just picking what it is that you want to work with. But the filters are those preset filters to mimic what the filters were in front of your camera lens. Yeah, the warming filter, I want to do one more thing. I do like it better if I change the blend mode.
oh, that looks good.
Yeah, it looks a lot better
Yeah.
off and on, right? Off and on.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah, so always remember that you can be playing with your blend modes. Okay, I'm going to turn this one off and close this because I don't know, my properties keeps hanging out, but it does. Does anyone use a channel mixer?
Nope.
No.
There's probably a good reason why. I haven't been able to make friends with this thing. I'm going to show it to you, but I'm still perplexed. Here's my channel mixer. All right,
Isn't that
so
for
I'm
infrared?
sorry.
I'm sorry, isn't that good for infrared? The channel mixer?
Yeah, I've seen that. I've also said it's primarily used for grayscale, sepia, and other tinted images, and that you can use the channel mixer to make creative color choices or adjustments to an image. Um, but what I was reading is that your total should always be about 100%, and you can work on different channels like red, green, and blue. And it's like, well, then I'll make that 80%, which means I got to make something else 20%. And it's like, well, how is that? Yeah, how is that? Or maybe I'll make that 10 and then this 10. Yeah, because every time you do less than or more than, yeah, I really couldn't, I
Mm.
really couldn't like figure out any way I couldn't come up with any results that I thought, wow, that's really cool. So thought I'd show it to you. It exists here. Apparently it can be used for that's great if it can be used for infrared. That's not something I've dabbled in. But for the underlying grayscale, I guess if I converted the image to monochrome and I can play with those channels, that might impact my monochrome. But we're talking about color today. So in other research, I found it's common use to correct color cast in images, but I really like that Lightroom calibration feature. All right, so that one I just was like, okay, I'll show you, and then I'm going to move on. One thing I really like, and I wished I used more, are lookup tables or LUTs. So let me find color lookup. Here it is, color lookup tables. So lookup tables or LUTs, L-U-T-S for lookup tables, is a form of presets that really remaps your color values in an image. They're originally used for film and video production, and it helps a film or reel have a consistent look or color throughout. They can be used for color grading your images, and they're especially useful like if you're wanting to apply a consistent color scheme or mood across a portfolio of images with kind of minimal effort. Um, the, these are the LUTs that you get with your Photoshop, and there's a number of them. There's some that are, I'm sure, creative, and maybe I'll find an application one day, the bleach bypass, that's but I really, really like the crisp warm. I mean, look at the before and after here, before and after.
Mhm.
I think it's beautiful. And it's one of the reasons why I chose this rather kind of dull image to show you. One of the things I really like about this, as opposed to um, the photo filter or a single solid color and blending, is that it's making the boards warmer while it's still keeping the fence cool. And that's
Mhm.
not something you get on all the options that we're looking at. Um, Edgy Amber is one that I like too, but it's kind of over the top, and then you'll want to do your blend modes and see how that works.
Hmm.
But I just think it adds a lot of interest and vibrancy, some pop to the image. So LUTs is something, after doing this, preparing for this presentation, I'm going to definitely do more of and more playing with. Now, I understand it's beyond the scope of what I'm presenting tonight, but I understand it's not difficult to make your own LUTs. And it's by you edit an image, then you select File, Export, Color Lookup Tables, and then you name it, and you have that LUTs to use going forward. So I
Oh.
think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to stay on this image and close this property. Another thing I want to show you is, I'm going to move this out here. Another reason I've got a portrait as opposed to landscape, because I wanted to show you presets. Oh, and you might wonder, usually these palettes, if you will, are over on this side of the screen, but I have a really large monitor and I spend a lot of time going over here and over here and over here and over here. So I move it all on this side. So Photoshop, just like Lightroom, Photoshop comes with many, many presets. And then again, you can buy more. Oops, I don't have any. But you've got portrait, cinematic, and split tone. You've got creative, photo repair, black and white, and there's more. Um, One of the things, just like presets in Lightroom, how it would actually move your sliders and edit your image where you could see what it did. Um, I'm going to pick one of these over here, and then you watch right here because it's going to show you exactly what it did. I'm going to pick Blue Mood. So it added this folder or this group called Cinematic Blue Mood, because that's what I chose, Cinematic Blue Mood. And when you click down, it tells you exactly what it did. It applied a photo filter, and you see it chose a cooling filter at 50% density, and it adjusted the brightness and the contrast. It bumped up the contrast, it brought down the brightness. And so you can use this as a starting point and then edit it, however you see fit. So I think that's pretty cool, especially when you're starting out and you're like, I really like that look, but I'm not sure how to do it. Oh, I love the X-ray. It's pretty cool.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, oh,
Yeah, I mean, if you're scanning old, I'm sure there is other ways to do it, but if you're scanning old, negatives, you can always then come and do the X-ray and then see what it actually looks like. All right, you guys still with me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I got one more thing I'm going to show you. Let me move this back up so I can squish this over here. And I want to get rid of that puppy. Okay. The last thing I want to show you is how to use gradients for color grading. It's gradient maps. Um, Gradients went through a huge change one or two upgrades ago. And folks, I haven't done the most recent upgrades because I started this working on this presentation like in November-ish, and I just wanted to leave everything static until I was done. But I know that how gradients work and how to make gradients and all of that went through a big update a couple of years ago. And so if you have an older version of, I'm not going to show you that sort of thing. I'm just going to show you how to use them. But if you have an older version of Photoshop, it might not look the same, but just be aware of that. It's still going to work in the way I'm going to show you. So towards the bottom, you see gradient maps. And basically, I have this black and white gradient map. So what it did was it made the shadows black, the midtones gray, and the highlights white. Okay. So any gradient that you have where you've got, the dark to middle to the light, you can apply that gradient map. It's going to color grade your image. If you have one that's the reverse, you can always hit this reverse button and then it will give, I think you guys kind of like that anyway, but it will reverse it for you. So I want to show you one or two that I really like. You get a lot of gradient defaults with Photoshop. I've got a couple that I imported from a class that I took. Um, and you can see it's going from dark to light, dark to light, dark to light. So if I look at this, I think, oh my gosh, what have I done? But I'm remembering that blend mode of the soft light, and maybe I reduce the opacity a little bit. So it's basically taking, this colors are being applied to the darkest part, then it's working towards the mid-tone all the way to the light. So I'll show you before and after,
Nice.
before and after. So I've just got a couple that I really like, and this one too. I think this one is like really cool. But I have to tell you, I've been using this one a lot. I really think that color lookup I'm in love with that. I think it's really cool. I like the way it keeps the cools cool and the warms warm. So there are a lot of different gradient maps, but you can use them, like I said, for the color toning. So that's what I had prepared to show you. That's 20 different tools that you can try. In your photo editing, I'm going to move you back so I'm actually looking at you. In your photo editing, and I hope that I've inspired you to try one or two things. Maybe you've used it in the past, but you just, like I did with the selective color, it's like, oh, I forgot about using that. Do you have any questions or comments?
I'm just going to say it was excellent, and you're going to be a hard act to follow.
I'm just glad I
Yeah.
went first, Pat.
Yeah.
That's what I was like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Jeez. Ay, ay, ay.
Yes,
It's
it
just
was
an
excellent.
incredible amount
It's
of
not going to really
information.
sink in until I sit down and try it
You
all.
gotta you gotta
Yeah,
try
no,
it.
Yeah.
It's hard, and then you're looking at this me moving my little cursor around the screen, and it's like, where did she go? But I really have extensive with the print screens, and oh, you can't see it. It's going to look at the background. Print screens of the tool and then instructions on how to use it. And the ones that have like selective color and the color grading, the beach balls, I've got links to some pretty fantastic tutorials so that you
Great.
can experiment with it
Oh,
and then learn and then come back and tell me what I missed.
That's a
oh,
lot
that's
to learn.
fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Just anything.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
We just need to
fantastic. Yeah.
try
There's
it.
there are a lot
I
of
loved
things
your
there that
demos
I've
too.
forgotten about. Yeah.
I'm
I
sorry, what,
haven't
Pat?
used.
I
There's
said I
some,
loved your demos too.
Oh, thank
Yes,
you.
very,
yeah.
very
I
Thank you,
think
nicely
thank you.
done.
Control J was the price, was worth the price of admission.
Yeah, me too.
Well,
Yeah.
you never know. You never know. Control J and then making sure you're working non-destructively.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many times I've worked in Lightroom. I go over to Photoshop and I'm like, oh, I really wished I would have come over as a smart object. So I saved all those edits I did. Because
Yeah.
you go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, smart objects, because I was always kind of
Yeah.
like, what's with the smart
Yeah.
object thing?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
so
don't
that
really
helps
understand
clarify
what they
that.
are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
the
don't
other
either.
thing with the smart object, I'm going to share one more. I'm going to share one more thing just to show you. It has nothing to do with color, but it has to do with smart objects.
Oh, cool.
All right, so just go back to here. Say I'm working with this and I make it smaller and then I make it bigger and I make it smaller again, like really, really small. And then I go to make it bigger again. A lot of times you lose, it's not really showing it well here, but I don't know. Can you see I'm losing resolution,
Oh,
right? If
Yeah,
I had converted this to a smart object before are you able to see that? How it's lost resolution between the
a
two?
little bit. Yeah.
A little bit, yeah. I maybe should have a different
Mhm.
demo a different image to use. But if you resize your images or you do a lot, it starts losing resolution. If you, on the other hand, convert it to a smart object first, and again, you just click right here in this blank spot, right click, and say convert to smart object and wait for that little thing. You can move it and change it as many times as you want, and you're not going to lose any resolution. It's going to stay just as brilliant as the first time you opened it here in Photoshop.
Huh.
So that's
Good to know. Good to
Mhm.
know.
yeah,
Oh,
that
that's
was
good to
a
know.
big, because when you're doing composites, you're reshaping things and you're changing them, and it's like, what is happening? My butterfly is now, I look at that list butterfly. My butterfly is now really fuzzy and pixelated, and why is it? Because I made it little and big and little and big, and now it looks like heck. So that's something
that's
I
even
learned
with
the
a
hard way.
raw image?
Hmm?
With a raw image, it does that to it?
Yeah, I actually haven't
Wow.
tried with JPEG, but
I bet it
yeah,
would
it
be
will.
worse.
But if you shrink it, it will pixelate it because it's compressing it. Yeah.
So
Oh,
that's in Photoshop and Lightroom, the smart object thing.
Photoshop.
Photoshop. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Although when you go from Lightroom to Photoshop, don't you have the option of sending it to Photoshop as a smart object?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that a good thing to do?
Yes.
Yeah,
She
because
said so too. She's absolutely right.
it
Sounds like
preserves
it.
all of your Lightroom edits.
Okay. Oh, man.
I
That's
got a
good.
lot of homework now.
No.
Oh, yeah,
Me
yeah.
too. Well, actually, that makes me happy because I thought, oh, these guys are so experienced, right? I don't want to be, telling you something that you know. So I'll get the handout to you guys later this evening.
Oh,
Great.
great.
Reviews are
Okay.
good, you know.
Yeah.
We can't remember everything.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Photoshop and
Tomorrow I'll have to
everything's
watch this
changing,
over
and
again.
it's hard to remember everything. Yeah.
Right. That's what no one remembers everything they know.
No.
Oh, very few
That's
people.
it.
Yeah.
I'm not one of them, but I'd say there
Yeah.
probably are people who do.
Yeah, I'm
They're
not one.
just not common.
Mhm.
If we want to be precise.
All right. Thank you all so
Thank you.
much.
Thanks,
Thank
Sherri.
Thank you.
you.
My
Thank
goodness,
you.
that was
Thank you.
wonderful.
Excellent
Absolutely
job.
wonderful. Aren't you glad it's
You
over?
passed. You passed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've put a lot of energy into it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It takes a
Yeah.
lot of, you
I
did a
kept
lot
saying,
of
oh,
work on that.
I
Yeah.
gotta update my Photoshop and Lightroom. I'm gonna wait, I'm gonna
Yeah.
wait. I
Yeah.
gotta actually do some stuff on
Yeah.
my computer. I'm like, no, I don't want to
Yeah.
jinx it. I'm gonna
No,
wait. So,
update, because it seems like they're always adding things, and they just added something new. So I'm always watching
right.
video to try to keep up to date on what they've just changed or done, and a lot of times just subtle stuff. But yeah, there's so much there.
Yeah, the update I haven't done yet creates a new catalog. So I'm always, I've never had a catalog issue. Where can I knock wood? But I'm always worried, you know.
Yeah, I had that problem when I moved to this new computer, is trying to, you know, bring in the old catalog, you know, because I had it saved, and then bring it in to set up, so I didn't lose all my stuff in, you know, Lightroom or, you know, like that. So it
I
just
have mine on an
make sure
external
to back up that
OWC.
catalog and know where you put it. That was one of my problems. I forgot where.
Yeah.
I couldn't find it after I saved it. You know, had to do a little searching. Yeah.
Well, you
I
can
don't feel so bad.
consider putting your
No.
catalog on an external drive if you have a fast one, like an OWC, and it runs just as fast. And then you can back it up. But you don't have to worry about it being on your hard. I have too much to leave mine is too big to be on my hard drive. My hard drive's not large enough to hold my catalog.
Yeah.
On an OWC drive, you can check it out. They're very fast. And that's where mine resides.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right.
OWC.
So one more
you.
thing to think about.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks a
Yeah.
lot, Sherri.
Well, thanks,
Congratulations.
Sherri.
Well,
You're
thank
the
you.
first
Thank you
victim.
all. Thanks for
Wow.
At first there
Yes.
was like 7 people. I was like, yeah.
I know.
Excellent job.
We're
Yeah,
hoping
I'm
for,
glad
oh,
you all
maybe nobody
I'm
will
glad
come.
you're all here. Yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
No,
Yeah.
I'm glad you're all here. Thank you guys so much. You're very
Thank
kind.
you.
I
Take
could
care,
feel the
everyone.
support. All right.
Good night.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Night. Bye-bye.
Right.